Yes.
And then let's talk just a little bit about Gus Price. Was he modeled after any particular teen movie star? Where did you draw that character from, and why was it important that he be famous?
First of all, it was important that he was famous because of how Cougar would feel about him. It wasn't important that he was famous for Danny. If he was just a great guy on the trip, Danny probably would have had a crush on him. But for Cougar, in order for Cougar to be an instrument that forces Danny to grow, he needed to be a movie star for Cougar, in my mind anyway. He's not modeled after any one movie star. I want readers, and I tried not to describe him too much because I really want readers to imagine whoever they think he'd be. Young adult readers love a little romance. I love a little romance, so I really just want them to bring their own ideas to Gus Price.
That makes sense. And so, yeah, that makes perfect sense because that is why Cougar is so excited about him.
Yeah.
It's a very Gilderoy Lockhart and Harry Potter type relationship.
Yes.
Need another famous middle grade / young adult novel to sweep the earth, so I have another pop culture reference to grab. And then, another question I had for you is, how long did this book take to write, and also how much medical research did you do? Because without spoiling, that comes in handy. There's a lot of different medical things going on.
Definitely. So on my first pass, I didn't fill in. I knew what I wanted to happen and how long I wanted things to take with each character without spoiling it. But I didn't know exactly what it was going to be. I did a little preliminary research on things I thought it was going to be, but we have a pretty wide network of friends who are in the medical profession. So I ran everything by them. You know, what would a head injury be like? You know, how would it manifest? How long might it take to overcome someone? What would a crushing injury be like? What would a broken bone be like? How could you survive? And when I would go too far, like I would do research and I'd say, oh, I can keep a gash clean by putting maggots in it because maggots eat, you know, dying flesh, and they were used in World War II when there were injuries. They would say, okay, hold up. You've gone a little too far. That would take a certain number of days. They would rein me in when I went a little off the rails. Unlike spiders, snakes, things like that, medical stuff fascinates me. So I did just a ton of research on all the medical things and then ultimately ended up running it by people to make sure it was right. And the book itself, you know, I had a 2-book deal with HarperCollins Inkyard Press, and I sold The Speed of Falling Objects based on, I think, 4 sentences. And then my pub date was 1 year later. So I wrote it, the whole thing, first draft, probably in 3 months, edited for another month or 2, gave it to my agent, and had it to Natasha Wilson, my editor, within 8 months, probably. So pretty quickly. Yeah.
What does a 3-month drafting time look like? How many hours are you writing a day? And did you have a specific word count you were aiming for? How did you judge a successful day?
I never look at word count, but I get up at 5:30 in the morning, have a quick breakfast, have coffee, write for probably 4 or 5 hours, take a break in the middle of the day and get exercise because I am a person who needs a ton of exercise, and my husband needs exercise, and my dog is a Vizsla, and that breed needs more exercise than anything I've ever seen in my life. So exercise for a couple hours, come back and spend 3 to 5 hours, depending, editing what I've done. So I never write in the afternoon, rarely, because I just don't feel like I'm as sharp a writer in the afternoon. I'm a morning person. So, maybe I would average 10, 20 pages a day. I can't even tell you. Some days would be 20 pages. Some days would be more. I learned from working for Ringling Brothers that you just get it down. And so I never worry about like specific words or say I knew I was going to have a broken bone. I didn't need to go into how it was going to, what that looked like even. I just keep moving forward. and then go back in the afternoon and fill in. And, you know, sometimes the 10 pages are bad or whatever, and you get rid of them, but usually in the afternoon, I'd find I could work through them.
Gotcha. So you're drafting as fast as you can in the morning, and then in the afternoon, that's when you're layering in your research, and you're doing it while it's fresh in your mind. You're not waiting until a month later to go back and add that stuff. Yeah,
I'm doing it. And you know, sometimes you do end up going back, and, you know, your biggest fear is always that you're going to get that editorial letter that says, you know, this character doesn't work, and that character's a thread through your whole story. So those are things that, before I would ever give a book to my agent or to Natasha in this case, I follow every thread of the story through, character by character, not just timelines, but reactions. Like I create like an emotional arc for that character, and I pull out every piece where they've leapt forward in any possible way, and I put it in a separate document, and I read through it to find out where I've gone wrong, what I missed, did I leap too far forward, did I go too far back? So I like, that takes me the most time at the end, because I do that for every single character. I do it for every single setting throughout the whole 400 pages.
Are you using Scrivener to do that? Are you using a Word document, just cutting and pasting?
Just a Word document. I just cut and paste and pull out every single thing for one character. Or say like Danny and Cougar's interactions. You know, how does he treat her at the beginning? How does that devolve? What does that look like? And I would follow that emotional journey separately. Because I get too confused if I'm trying to follow it with everything else going on, and it's like a shiny object. Oh wait, there's Gus. I'm going to go, what does she say to him? How did they look at each other? I need to just follow one thing all the way through. I'm not good at multitasking in that process.
So are you a heavy plotter, or are you a pantser? Where on that spectrum do you fit?
I know my beginning and my end, and I don't know my middle at all. Because I feel like if I create a character at the beginning that is three-dimensional enough, they're going to take me along for the ride. So I feel like they tell me, it sounds so weird, but I feel like when I create a character I really know who they are, and that they really know who they are, and they're fully formed, that then I go on the journey with them. And I know how Danny's going to feel when Cougar does something, or it just, I don't know, it kind of just happens. And then I look back and I say, oh, this is incongruous. I'll take that out. Something else has to happen here. But I kind of just, the middle is just going along on the journey. And I try really, really hard not to think about getting to the end, because the end is this one moment. It's kind of like pub day, right? I just had pub day. Woohoo! But if it's all about pub day for me, then the whole last year that I just spent in the process, you know, I'm discounting the journey. And so I try and do that with my novels, and I try and be on the journey and enjoy that moment where I figure something out, or something seems cool, or I just wrote a cool line, or you know, I just try and enjoy that middle process, even though the middle's the hardest part for me.
Yeah, mostly it's enjoyable.
Yeah.
At least periodically. There are days.
There are days. I mean, of course.
You're pulling your hair out, it's not great.
Yeah.
You mentioned hearing voices. The nice thing about a show like this, where it's authors talking to authors for authors and anybody else that wants to listen, is presumably the vast majority of our audience knows exactly what you mean. Whereas I remember, I'm going to out my mom a little bit, but getting back to old Mr. Stephen King, she said, I listened to an interview with your favorite author. He said he hears voices in his head, like maybe Satan's voice. I guess in her mind, he's possessed. He's Regan in The Exorcist. Regan.
Yes.
And then I went back and I listened to the interview she was talking about. Oh, no, I know exactly what he's talking about. There's no demons involved, I think. That's just what happens when you're working with the story, as the characters start to talk to you. And when you're among the members of your tribe, everybody knows what you mean.
Exactly.
It's just the normals that go, wait a minute.
Yeah, and you ask yourself, like I ask myself all the time, what would Danny do? You know, I started asking myself that question: what would Cougar do? What would Danny do? You know, and you just incorporate it into your story and your life and your plotting and everything because they tell you.
Is there anything that the characters did in this novel that threw off your plans or really surprised you?
I think I'm surprised how much empathy I have for Cougar. And I think that surprises me more than anything in the whole process. You know, Danny, she was braver in a lot of ways than maybe I originally thought she was going to be. I don't know that I thought I was going to create such a, you know, I can't say, I was going to say a bad A blank blank. But
I think a esteemed audience can handle that one.
Yeah, she became much more powerful than I even imagined that I was going to create her. But the thing that surprised me most was not only that I had empathy for him, but also that Danny had the capacity for forgiveness, more of a capacity than I think a lot of people might have had for forgiveness. So was there anything when you read that surprised you?